Juan Carlos Ferreira, Riddle. There was that one time in Jamaica, right? Actually, I did meet him down in Jamaica. We were doing an event together and got to know him and Jenny a bit, and just such good people. And when I called him up, he's like, man, yeah, I'd love to come to Nashville. Come to find out, on the ride over here, he and Tom were swapping recipes on barbecue. I'm surprised they made it on time because they passed a couple of barbecue joints. But Taylor's going to be with us tonight talking about kind of the ins and outs of tennis. He's been on the pro side. He's also had an academy out in Southern California. They've recently relocated to Texas and building a brand new facility down there. In his family, he's not necessarily the best tennis player because his wife Jenny was a great player herself, played on the tour, and just super people. So I'm so excited that he was able to come here with us today. So Taylor, Dent, everybody.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. And like I said, just tell me to shut up anytime you guys get hungry. I have no ego about that, so we'll get some food. I guess there's two topics that kind of want to talk about, maybe get some perspective for some of you out there. First topic, I hear that some of you want to try and start doing an academy type thing, and so me and my family, we've done that a couple of times. And whether you call it an academy or a group, I don't know, they kind of intermingle in tennis. I don't really think that there's one classification over another. The other thing is transitioning maybe a great high school player to a great college player, or a college player to a pro player. And I'll keep it short and sweet, but the way I love to do this, to be honest with you, I would love to answer questions that are relevant to what you guys have questions about. That makes it more fun for me. So if you guys have questions, I would love to make this mostly 90% about question and answer. So just think of some good questions. You can make it as hard as you want. Only topic off not allowed, taboo is Trump. You can't ask me about Trump. I'm going to piss off somebody one way or another. Right? Anything else is fair game. So academies. My experience is, so when we retired, I was faced with the choices. Do I go back on the road to train with somebody? I was getting offers from Jack Sock and stuff like that. And my wife and I wanted to start a family. That was one of the big reasons why I retired. And so it was either go back on the road and spend 30 plus weeks a year on the road, or start an academy. So the academy sounded better. It sounded more family friendly. And so we just winged it. My dad ran a small program when I was young, 12 years old, 13 years old. It went pretty well. And so we're like, okay, well, let's give this a try. We can try and figure it out and do it. And what we learned on that first one that we didn't know that we learned is location's big. If you want a successful academy, having kids that can drive from 5, 10 minutes away, 15 minutes starts to get a stretch is huge. And generally what that means is the academy has to be located in a pretty good school district. So that was one of the things, moving forward, what we learned out is you got to really pay attention to how strong the schools are, because that's where the young families all choose to move to. So just by that, like the kids who came to the academy had no idea who my dad was. My dad was top 10 in the world. I mean, incredible coaching credentials. They had no idea who my wife was. They had no idea who I was. They literally came to us because our price was competitive and we were convenient. And we were just flooded after a month of being open, just because there were no other options around. So I would just say, man, if you're thinking about doing just a nice after-school program, I give it 2 thumbs up, and just make sure your location is good. And the other thing I would say too is make sure that the kids and the parents are on the same page as what an academy is good for. I don't believe an academy, and I could be wrong, these are just my opinions. I do not believe an academy is good for heavy lifting on technical work. It takes too much time out to talk to player A and say we need to work on this and give them time to kind of feel it, say no, that's not quite right. As you know, how long does it take to change somebody's technique? It's not you say one word and that technique is changed. It's a painstaking process to get that thing where you want it to go. That does not go well with the other kids that are looking, that need your attention, that need your concern. And if you're stopping a drill every couple of minutes, it's a killer. So the things that I tell parents that the academy is great for is competition, playing their peers. I mean, playing me, it's not realistic. It may be fun for them for a little bit, but having lessons with me and competing against me, I'm either going to make them look like Federer, or I'm going to make them look like, you know, some beginner out there. Yeah, it's just the way it goes. So real competition is what the academy thrives on. Repetition. It obviously costs a lot less to spend hours out in the academy with, you know, 4 kids on a court, 5 kids on a court, than it does just one-on-one with me teaching tennis. And then the last thing is fun. When they're surrounded by their peers, they have a great time. And my experience has been is if you can run a program that's high energy and fun, kids love it. The kids love it. And you know, the kids can use drills to get better or not. You know, and that's kind of a philosophy thing. You know, we try to really tell the kids that the drill's not going to make you better. It's how you do the drill that's going to make you better. We play a game called Bump, and I'm sure all of you have kind of seen this game. So that's the top court down there. We get 4 people on the court, and we just play cross-court points, no alley, right? Cross-court points. And when I tell the kids, like, look, it's going to be awesome if you win. You know, and if you win, let's say this is low side. If you win, you move up to the backhand side, which is high. If you win that, you move forehand side on the, you know, it's just called bump. You bump up, bump down. And all the kids that win go out there and they just poke it and play like this. You know, because it's a consistency game. But, you know, I try and teach a philosophy to say, look, hey, if you want to really make this carry over to your matches, this is what we're working on. We're working on racket speed. We're working on hitting a huge part of the court here, because if your opponent has a bad backhand or a bad forehand, you want to be able to target that safely with a nice heavy ball. So I would just say, and how many kids you think pay attention to that? 0. They all want to win. You know what I mean? So that's the balance that you have to work with that I've found. But again, I try to tell the parents, like, look, if you're looking for heavy technical instruction in an academy setting, we certainly aren't the place to be. You know, it slows it down too much, and the kids get bored. They get tired of it, and they don't want to pay attention, so they're not going to come back. That's where I think that doing private lessons and doing academy go hand in hand. In the beginning, we had a coach on every court. I think it's overkill, in my opinion. I don't think it's necessary at all. I think that if you have kids good enough, so currently what we do is we break our programs up, and the kids that can't rally with themselves, that's one class of kids, and they need a coach on the court. That's the way it goes. Coach or a ball machine. Ball machine is awesome, and they just need the attention, you know, and they need somebody to engage and make it fun. For the kids who can rally with themselves, man, you can have one coach for 4 courts, and it is competitive and it is super fun. I personally think it's better to have fewer kids on a court and less coaches, because it's a trade-off, right? I mean, obviously, if you have 10 kids on the court, you can pay for one coach to be there. I'd say the repetition for the kids goes way down. Now, in some scenarios, that's fine, but my personal preference is to have more courts for you know, so they space out a little bit, and fewer coaches. So that's the trade-off. I tend to like that a little bit better. They get more reps in that way. Anyway, so we had a really successful program there, and then we moved 5 minutes away. Lost 80% of our kids. That's how big of a deal convenience is, the convenience factor. So that's actually when we had to change our program. The reason why we left that place is it got rezoned to the apartments and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't going to be there. We're like, okay, we'll move, you know, just a little bit down the road. I think it was like 2 miles down the road. And we lost 80% of our kids. So just, you know, make sure, don't underestimate how important location is. It is the biggest factor for an after-school program. So anyway, we moved there and we did a full-time program, because we just said, well, we can't make an after-school program here. The schooling, guess what? The school district wasn't highly rated, and it was just an inconvenient drive for those after-school kids. So we went to a full-time program. Nothing really changed there, I don't think. It was just more for homeschool, online school kids. We partnered with an online school program, so the kids would go there, boom, over to the courts, and away we go. That was nice because we did that. Oh, that was nice actually, because when are the courts most busy? The courts are most busy in the mornings, right? When you have the ladies' leagues out, and they're also busy in the afternoons when people start getting off work, or there's already an after-school program there. So in that situation, it was actually really cool because we leased courts from a club that was really busy, but every club is dead. You know, at least in California, they're dead from about 12 o'clock, 12:30 till 4:30. So they were making money off of us, and we weren't paying that much because the courts were dead anyway. And that's becoming more of an option with online schooling. You know, I mean, we sent kids to Harvard and UCLA with that online schooling. So I think that was an interesting thing there, and it opened up the afternoon and evenings to teach private lessons, because that's when you're going to teach the bulk of your private lessons to the young kids. And that took us to Texas, so we had an opportunity to buy some land and build our own club, and that's kind of where we are right now. We actually just moved over to get on the 5 new courts in Texas, and same thing. We chose that location based on the school district around, the proximity, and all that sort of stuff. And again, same thing. They don't know anything about our credentials. They don't know anything about us as coaches or anything like that. But because it's close and convenient, it works. I love ball machines for academies. I think it's basically, if I have kids that can't rally with each other, I can look at easily 2 courts with ball machines going and have 4 kids on the court, and they are exhausted and playing a bunch. I mean, you can just, like I said, if you're thinking about starting an academy, seriously consider ball machines, because the more engaging. This was one other thing I learned. I thought one of our selling points at the academy was going to be me playing against some of the better kids around. So I would suit up every day, get out there, and I would play some of the highly ranked 18s in Southern California, the best, some of the best kids in the nation. And so I thought, oh, parents are going to love this, eat it up. I got yelled at all the time, because I'm giving all my attention to one kid during academy time. So I would just say, be very cognizant of that. You make sure you walk around, spread around, and it's easy to gravitate towards two types of people. One, the good players, they're fun to watch. They just are. It's fun to watch them play the ball good, and the hard workers. You know what I mean? That's enjoyable to see, at least for me. So I always have to fight the urge to, because I tend to gravitate towards those. If you're working hard, man, I will kind of want to be with you and work you through it. But you just got to make sure if parents are going to get upset if you're not, making sure you're making the rounds. And that's, look, for an after-school program, I would say, location is the biggest deal in my opinion. The convenience factor is it, and make sure that you are not tied down to one court. Figure out how to free yourself up. If that's paying some feeder, good, it's okay. You can do a ball machine. I think that's even better. Any questions on that? Perfect. Yeah, that's good. All right, next, talking about maybe transitioning a player from high school tennis to college tennis, and I think this just breaches an overall concept, an overall scheme of just what is the player out here for? And this is what I ask the players all the time. What are you out here to do? Are you out here to win, or are you out here to get better? In my opinion, you can do both, but both cannot be an equal priority. In fact, when I was on tour, Eliot, don't know if you guys know who that is. He was an unbelievable player. He was like 4 in the world, and he played with McEnroe and Connors and those guys. Anyway, unbelievable player. So I was super competitive. I hated losing practice sets, and I would go out there and I'd try to win every practice set. And I ended up getting yelled at, after I'd win practice sets. And he's like, "Why are you winning so many of these practice sets?" He's like, "What that tells me is you're out here playing your best, and you're trying your hardest, and you're doing the things you're already good at. That's not why you're losing matches. Why don't you do the things that you're bad at? I want to see you lose some more." So that actually hit me pretty hard when I was younger. And to go back even further, I had the privilege of practicing with Pete Sampras when I was younger. I lived in Southern California, so did he, and there weren't a ton of people available for him to practice with, and he always liked practicing at his house, and I don't. This is at the time I was living with Eliot, and we would just go drive. It took me an hour and a half to go to his house, but we'd go drop the hat, we'd go. And all he ever wanted to do was warm up and play sets. So I played, probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 sets a week with Sampras. That's a lot for a young kid, 16, 17-year-old kid, it's pretty cool. And I never lost a set. Never lost a set with Pete Sampras. So, what do you think? I'm thinking. I'm 16 years old, 17 years old. Sampras is #1 in the world, greatest player of all time at that stage. And I'm beating. I'm like, oh my goodness, 50 Grand Slams, here we come. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm thinking. And it didn't hit me that I was being used that whole time. He was getting the better practice than I was. Why? He was out there messing around. He was working on new things that he was trying out. He had a purpose for being out there greater than winning. His purpose was to get better. My purpose was just to beat him. So we end up getting the better practice every single time, and it hurts me to this day that happened. It hurts me right now thinking about it. Anyway, so I try to impart that on our kids. Every day before practice, I try to frame their minds and just say, look, how many of you are out here and would rather improve than win? And they all raise their hands. They all say they'd rather improve than win because they know that's the right answer. But once the drill starts, all that's out the window, and we're trying to beat the so I think it's just creating that idea and that mindset to where you have to put improving first. And if you get the win anyway, it's great, especially in practice. Shoot, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And so that's what I try to get across to them. In fact, the kids that I see improve the most have hit rock bottom. They've lost all their confidence. They're done. They're fed up with it, and they no longer care about winning. So what do they end up focusing on? Instead of focusing on beating, their peer, their competitor, they can focus on, well, I'm so bad. I just need to focus on just getting back at this and focus on something simple that they're doing, and they end up improving so much just because they've gotten rid of that whole edge of I need to win, I need to beat this person. They just free themselves up, and I think that's the art of being mentally tough out there, is focusing on things you can control to distract yourself from the winning. Focusing on winning is just poison, in my opinion. It's pure poison. We had a girl, oh my gosh, she was rough. She had this emotional roller coaster, and so she had a peer, and this girl was good, she was talented. This girl wasn't quite as good, she wasn't quite as good. So then she, again, hit that bottom. This girl was going up, and she said, I'm just going to work on getting better. I'm going to work on X, Y, and Z. Actually end up just surpassing, just let everything go, improved a ton. Guess what happened when she improved? A bunch. She started focusing on, I need to win. I need to beat this person. I can't lose this person. And all that fear crept into her game, and then boom. And literally, this was the pattern the whole time. She hit bottom, she let go of it, she improved, and then she could get up here, and then she gravitate right back to it. She could not get over the hump. So I think that just that constant reminder of improvement comes first will make everybody happier, and the parents too. I fight the parents all the time on that, because the parents, shoot, I'm a dad. I want my kid to win all the time. So you're gonna fight the parents on just saying, hey, look, improvement, the wins will come if we focus on improvement. That's kind of what it is. And I think I don't know all of your exact positions, but for me, I feel like it's cheating, because the parents come to me, and what I sell is, look, we're gonna try and improve the kid as fast as the kid will let us. You know what I mean? It's a partnership here, and anywhere else that child goes, it's gonna be outside of the teaching pro type thing. It's gonna be dependent on wins. Like I've had kids go to the USPTA coaches. And man, it's tough, because a lot of the USPTA coaches, they're under a lot of pressure to get wins right now, and that's at a lot of times counterproductive to long-term improvement. Same thing as I've had kids go to college, and man, they come back and they've actually regressed, gone backwards, and it's just because a lot of the college coaches, it's just their jobs depend so much on having a good year that they don't take risks, and they play out of fear rather than playing out of just looking ahead, that excitement going ahead. So I would just say, as far as just improving a player at the fastest rate possible, keep things simple, and always say, look, we're here to get you better as fast as you can, and as you get better, you'll win more. And the other thing I will say, I have parents all the time, like I encourage parents to come on the court with me, because they're going to talk to the kid no matter what. So I may as well be in the conversation. I don't want to be outside of the conversation. So if they're watching the lesson, I put them in my pocket just so I can hear what they're saying, so I can kind of filter it out. I just don't want the kid leaving and then the parent saying something that I haven't heard, and then it's just, I'd rather just hear what they're saying so we can talk through it. And the biggest thing that I come across with the parents is they have great ideas. They have awesome ideas. Unfortunately, there is something that's going to benefit the kid's stroke or game more than another thing. And I feel that the parents will see something and they'll think that's the secret. So I like to get in there and say, that is true, we could do that, but that's not really going to impact X, Y, and Z. If we want the most improvement out of the stroke the quickest, this is what we can focus on. As soon as they get that, then we can come back to this one. And there's a sequence to it there. So I would just say, being efficient with your improvements, like what is, Nick Saviano had this idea of flair versus fundamental. And I think, identifying what is flair to you and what is fundamental to you is a big deal, you know what I mean? Because you're going to see a lot of different strokes, and you already have seen a lot of different strokes. I see a ton of different strokes, even on the pro tour. And so just making sure that, you differentiate, because man, I think the worst thing to do is just work on something that's not going to make the stroke better. And I think that's what the parents, a lot of the parents do all the time. Like, and I'll get out there and I'll demonstrate it. They'll talk to me about, and again, I may be insulting some people. It doesn't mean I'm right. These are just my opinions. I'll be talking to some parents about, that stance, I guess it's called the pinpoint stance versus the platform stance, right? And I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't really care. There's great servers that do a pinpoint. There's great servers that do platform. I actually did it both ways in my career. And they're talking to me about this thing when the kid's like, getting the serve over here on the side of their body, and I'm just like, well, that's fine. Well, we can do whatever you want there, but it's not going to change the serve. And I'll get up there and I'll hit serve for them, and I'll hit the fence no matter what they ask me to do. So I guess just making the kids efficient and the parents efficient on the order of business is good. That's what I'd say. So have the kids focus on improvement and make sure what the kids are actually focusing on is going to give them the biggest bang for the buck, because that's when they're going to be excited and want more. Any questions? So yes.
I have a couple of questions.
Awesome.
Backing up to your first part. So a lot of us are probably in the same boat. We're at a facility, so it's not like we were starting an academy and we can move anywhere or wherever.
Right.
I've been coaching for a long time, so a lot of times what you see is you'll have a good group of players, and then all of a sudden you'll have like one of your top players will go to another program, and then all the other kids like move around to the other program. What are your thoughts on that?
Thoughts on that? Well, again, that is a big problem, and it's the good kids and the popular kids, right? Because the kids want to be social and have fun, and they're going to recruit all their kids. I would say, look, it's just business. At the end of the day, it's business. So you have to see how valuable that kid is to your program, and there might be special deals for that. You know what I mean? That kid might come to Academy for free. If they take private lessons, they have to pay, for that. But I mean, if they're that valuable, I mean, that happens all the time. That happens all the time. I mean, do you think Nishikori's paying for his coaching of volunteers? No chance. There's zero chance. I mean, that coach is worth, like I bet you IMG's expenses for that coach is probably, 150,000 plus. So I would, again, maybe he is, I don't know, but I would be surprised. But they see that, I would bet they see that as value, because Nishikori is going to be bringing in so much more in revenue. So again, that's that kind of trade-off that you're going to have to see. How much is that student worth? Yeah, I guess that's what you're going to have to do. And there's only so many ways you can entice that player in. The leader of the pack, more or less, and that's expenses. I would say is the biggest one.
Second question, can you address this a little bit? Obviously, you had a lot of success in the juniors. We opted not to go to college. What are your thoughts on players going to college, not going to college?
I'd say it's unique to everybody. I was kind of working with Sock through that decision, and my opinion is if he's getting endorsement deals that are going to pay for 3+ years of professional tennis, you have to take that, because if you go to college, you may get hurt. You may not improve. Nobody may be interested in you. There may be somebody else who comes up, and whoever is recruiting now is spending money. So I would say if you can afford to go for 3 or 4 years based on the endorsements, then I would say that's tough to pass up. I was put in that position a little bit. I almost couldn't afford to go to college. So I would say that's one factor. The other factor is tennis is getting older. I think it's crazy. I can't believe Federer is playing as well as he is, and he's 36 years old. That was unheard of when Agassi and Sampras were around. You look at those guys playing like they leave those dinosaurs out there. But Federer is incredible, and all those guys too. So I would say 20 years ago, losing those 1, 2, 3, 4 years, big deal. I remember I played with this junior. You're not gonna maybe know who he is. Philip King. He was the second best junior behind me in Southern California for a while. And he's like, well, how can I compete with Taylor? He was kind of venting to Eliot, because he's good friends with Eliot, and he's saying, I spent 4 years in college playing good college kids, but Taylor spent 4 years playing pros. So, but I don't think that's as big a deal now, just because the career is so much longer. I felt like I felt like when I was 17, I looked at 30 years old, 31, and you're retired. You know what I mean? So you're gonna peak when you're about 25, 26, and then you're gonna have a couple of fall off years, and then you retire 30, 31, because that's kind of what the standard was back then. Now it seems like you can play at a peak when you're 36. Partly because of all the physical technology that's advanced. These guys are incredible. I'm not going to call Sampras a bad athlete, but man, these guys are pretty special, and it's not by chance. I think it's by technology as well.
Besides the improvement every day, Taylor was talking to little 10-year-old Taylor. What would he say? Taylor today was talking to little 10-year-old.
Well, I'd ask ambitions, right? Because ambitions matter. If 10-year-old Taylor's ambitions are to play on the high school tennis team, then I would say a certain set of things. I would say, well, we can get on there by being consistent, being a competitor, and so on and so forth. So I guess my advice would change depending on the aspirations of the young student. If the aspirations are high Division I tennis, I mean, you're talking about you have to be a successful pro, because I think the best Division I college players tend to be about 200 in the world almost right off the bat. So you're talking pretty high level stuff. If that's the case, whether you want to turn pro or play high Division I tennis, I would say, and I say this to the kids that I'm coaching now, is don't try to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we have plenty of examples. I mean, we have YouTube now. You know what I mean? You don't have to come up with some crazy new stroke. And if you don't believe me, go look at YouTube. It's there for you. You can slow-mo Federer's forehand, Nadal's forehand, Berry's backhand. It's all on there. It's amazing. You know what I mean? So I would just say, whatever you're working on, whatever you're doing, make sure it is valuable at a pro level. Like I'll actually have a pro girl right now, and she loves like this. She tosses the thing out here and she cuts it out wide. Nice and slow. And my question is, do the best servers serve like that? You're telegraphing the thing, it's going super slow, and these girls are not going to just stand there with their feet in cement. They're going to get over there and hurt you. Another one, I have a professional girl that's not quite as good, and she likes to hunker down back here and roll the ball short at the service line. If you can point to me a successful example of that happening, I'll endorse it. Let's boom. Hey, you just reinvented tennis. It doesn't exist at the levels that she wants to go to. So I would just say, whatever you're doing, make sure it's not out of the scope of ordinary. Like, I'd never recommend anybody to do what Nicolescu did. And I'm wrong, or Fabrice Santoro. Obviously I'm wrong, that worked for them. But I would just say, man, the amount of strange strokes that have a plateau out there far outweigh the amount of strange strokes that have succeeded through. And that's just leading into another thing. Technique, in my opinion, if you look on YouTube and you watch all the players play, they have a variety of techniques. My philosophy on coaching is, this is how I want the ball to look. You can generate me that ball, that's a quality ball, then I won't touch your technique. You can do it in your unique, special way. If you can't do it, then it stinks for you. We're going to have to break down some technique, and that's not fun. That's my least favorite part of tennis, to be honest with you. So I would just say, talking to young Taylor, if the aspirations are high, don't get crazy. Like, I used to smoke my forehand dead flat. I wish I never did that. You know what I mean? Just because it doesn't happen. The best forehands out there have 4,000 RPMs on them, and they're nasty in there. And young Taylor loved to do damage going through the baseline. Holy smokes, I used to smoke the ball hard, going right through the court. Ask me how the 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds handled that. They didn't handle it so well, but ask me how the pros handled that. And they did just fine. You know what I mean? So the damage done today is done through the sidelines, not through the baseline. Get the corner out of the way. So I would just say, man, pay attention. Pay attention to what the pros do, if that's your aspirations.
When you played on the tour, and you played your best, what percentage of it was due to your mindset on that particular day versus the physical?
Huge. So the best run I ever had was actually the year I played Agassi at the US Open, and I hurt my hamstring. But that little run I had was unbelievable. So I was working with a coach, and tennis got too complicated. There was too many things going on, and I just simplified it. And I said, look, I'm a serve volleyer, and I play kind of an opportunistic baseline game. So I spent 2 hours every morning just serving the ball. this. I got a basket of balls. I got my buddy who was not quite good enough to play on the future tour, and I just said, okay, I'm serving half an hour out wide to the deuce side. And he knew where every serve was going, and I just played that point over and over and over and over. And I played every point so it was just muscle memory, so it was just easy. So I knew what was coming, knew how the patterns felt, you know what I mean? Because intellectually knowing something and feeling something are miles apart. And that's why I try to tell the parents too all the time, you understand it. I understand how to play golf. I get it. Hey, I can't do it. I don't have the skill to do it. So just making tennis simple was big for me. Just basically keeping it as simple as possible. And the other thing is that idea of what we talked about. Like I let go. I let go of the results. I remember I was with my dad at this stage, and before every match, he wished me good luck and all that sort of stuff. And it ended up being a little ritual for us. And my retort was always, well, I hope I play well, but because I knew if I played well with my style of game, it was tough. That's why I had some good wins. I wasn't that good of a player all the time, but when I was playing well, I was tough to handle. But my retort was, well, I hope I play well, but if I don't, I'm just going to fight. You know what I mean? And how many days out of 10 days playing, if you ask a professional player how many days they play well, it's 1 or 2. And Tom Gullickson, I actually had a lot of conversations with Tom Gullickson because he was close to Sampras, and he used to call it just that blue collar day. You take off the white collar, it's not too pretty, you put the blue collar on, and you get to work. And so I think mentally preparing myself before every match to just kind of say it's probably going to be ugly. Probably going to be ugly out here today. I hope it's not. I hope I have one of those 1% days or 10% days, whatever you want to call it. But I was prepared for it to be ugly and to be fight. I found that on all flip side, the worst matches I've ever played. Worst matches I've ever played was when I warmed up amazing before, because I just felt like I've got it today. I'm feeling it today. And looking back on it, it's so stupid. I was so mentally fragile going out on the court, so mentally fragile because what was I holding on to? I was holding on to something I couldn't control. I was holding on to how well I was hitting the ball. I can't control that. If I could control that, I'd never choose to hit the ball bad. I hit the ball great every day. And so all it took was one double fault. All it took was one frame volley, and then you start to get shaky. I experienced that with Jared Donaldson. I worked with Jared Donaldson for a while, and he had a great draw at the US Open. I think the first year he was playing it, and he was warming up unbelievable before the match. And I was giving him the pep talk. I'm like saying that warm up means nothing. You go out there and just fragile. Just had a really, really rough emotional, mental day out there. So I would just say the best time I had in my career was when tennis was simple, and I relied on my fight more than my playing. And it's funny, I felt like if you asked me, scale of 1 to 10, how I played each of those matches, I'd tell you I played a 5 or 6. And I got 4th round US Open. I had to pull out against Agassi. I was actually up against Agassi, and I won Bangkok and Moscow back to back. In those weeks. And I would just tell you I played about a 6 out of 10. And I was down in some of those matches, and I just was willing to fight just because of how I set myself up before the match.
One other question. Yeah. The club I'm at has got a lot of older people, and they play USPTA leagues. And the biggest problem is, like you were saying, they practice to win.
Yeah.
And I say when they get on the matches, they play with handcuffs on.
Yeah.
What can you tell me to tell them to try to get the handcuffs off and to practice better so they can take it to the arena, during the matches?
I think a lot of loosening, again, you can go about it 2 ways. They kind of go hand in hand. One, I feel the more mentally tough you are, the more you're focused on something you can control, right? So if it's focusing on winning, you can't control that. I don't care what you say, you know what I mean? Because you never choose to lose. I certainly would. And you can't play well. And you can't control playing well. You may be able to control some little things to help you play well, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to say, I'm going to go out and play bad today. But that happens all the time, So I would say, what are some of the things you can control? For me, when I was a junior, and I got brainwashed by my dad, and my dad was all about mental toughness, and this was his big thing, is you focus on your concepts, which are things that you can't control. When I was a junior, I was focused on hitting the ball at the top of its bounds. Was it an amazing thought? Was it a brilliant thought? No, who cares? But that was something I could control, and it distracted me from the score, it distracted me from my opponent, it distracted me from who's watching, it distracted me from what round I'm in, it distracted me from, all this other stuff. Oh, your agent's watching. I'm sitting talking about it. That's my job. In fact, I played one match. I played one match in Kalamazoo in the quarters, and I played against this guy really good. And this guy intimidated me. I think I was number 1 in the 16s at this stage, or close to it. So I was either the 1 or 2 seed, I can't remember. And his name was Bo Hawk. Some of you guys may know him. Anyway, he intimidated me big time for some reason. And I got out there, and I ended up beating him, 1-1. I played so scared. I had never gotten berated from my father more than that match. And he's like, you should just give up. If you're going to go out there and focus on that, it's over. You should just stop now. And that kind of stuck with me because, again, my dad was big about that. You can't control many things when you step on a tennis court. But the things you can control, that's what better have your focus. The other thing that helps is just making it a long-term thing. Instead of making it like, if you tell me I have to make this shot, otherwise we all have to do 100 burpees, I'm not going to like that. You know what I mean? But if you tell me, okay, Taylor, you can make, down the road, I want you to be able to just hit this one shot in. So that takes pressure off the moment. So with your elite players, just say, look, I want you to win today, but we're playing to win more in 3 months' time, 6 months' time. We're playing to win in the next spring. You know what I mean? And so that way it'll take pressure off of the now. My wife, Jenny, that's what her coach told her all the time. Her coach is the same coach as Jack Sock, Mike Wolf. He said, look, you want to be playing the best tennis when you're 17, 18 years old. And how do you think she felt when she was going out there and playing junior tennis at 12 and 14? She felt free. She's like, well, this is just great if I win, but I know that what I'm doing, so just making it a little bit more long-term. And I know that's how I felt in juniors because my dad was a professional player. I felt that professional tennis was very tangible. Some of the kids you talk to, they think it's unrealistic, but for me, my whole childhood was growing up around professional tennis players, so it was a certainty. And so I felt like that also made it very easy for me to play juniors. I'm like, well, this is just practice grounds for me. I'm trying to become a professional player, and so I would say make it more long term and make them focus on things they can control versus not.
Can you walk us through how many coaches you had and what led you to go from one coach to the other, or what you liked about certain coaches, what you disliked about certain coaches?
In an academy setting, are we talking about an academy or private? Because I feel they're very different. We're going to talk about both.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, throughout your junior career and even pro.
Okay, cool. So we'll do all that. Okay, well, so my father was my coach. So we're talking about my professional career. My father was my coach up until I was about 17. And great coach. Awesome coach. I was 17, and he was my father. And that's why that didn't work. So anyway, we decided to be best. And he was still involved in my tennis. But it's just, I don't know, it's just really tough, especially, I don't know, anyway, you guys see it on all the time. It's just you reach a certain age and you need to, puff up your chest a little bit, and that's what happened. So my dad was gracious and very patient with me. So anyway, so then my next coach was Eliot Telcher. And Eliot was awesome. He was all about the things that I picked up from Eliot. One thing that really stuck with me, first of all, Eliot's a great guy, but his coaching was basically, if you're not going to hit a winner on a shot, if you're not going to get 3 points off a shot, you're not allowed to miss that shot. So he didn't mind me double faulting. I could double fault 20 times a match. He actually wouldn't care that much because my second serve was so big, I would get so many free points off it and the people would miss, he wouldn't care. He hated it whenever I missed going for too much on defense just because I didn't win that many points there. So he's like, I don't understand that. So that's one of the things that really imparted, he left an impact on me. Obviously, he was all about fighting. And that's why I feel like we got along pretty well. I feel like, there's not too many matches where I'd say I didn't give 100% effort. Maybe my game wasn't there that day, but I certainly would lay down on the court to try and get a win. And the other thing that he impacted is the efficiency of tennis. Again, what we talk about is, am I going to win more points if my first serve improves 10% or if my drop shot improves 10%? How many times do I use a drop shot in my matches? So he was huge on, you better be spending your time on things that you use the most often. You know, and so that was just, when I was young, that was because I tried to hit every shot. You know, I tried to be better, right? I tried to be able to do everything. It's just like that's inefficient. You know, you're losing because of this. Let's spend more time on that. And those were the two really, really big things that Eliot kind of left me with. One of the plays that he brought into my game that was huge, actually huge. I think this is the only reason I could compete with Agassi. Is one of the plays that Eliot loved that he had to do was either hit my backhand line or just move my backhand line and bait the angle cross court forehand, because everybody wants to hit that thing cross court anyway, right? So you let them see it. You let them think that it's pretty big, that you're just totally leaning on it. And then generally, if you hit a slice, or if I hit a slice, it would land a little bit shorter and there, and I'm just ready to run at this thing as hard as I can. And the forehand we worked on the most was just running over here and just literally running through that thing up the line, and it gets me to the net safely. And I can pretty much do that play all the time because I was always strongest at the net, so he was always concerned with me getting to the net safely and effectively and as often as possible. So that's one of the plays that we worked on quite a bit. Then after Eliot, I went with Paul Kildare, actually. Paul, the reason I went with Paul was because he was working a lot with Pat Rafter at the time. And Pat Rafter was one of my idols when I was growing up. I kind of transitioned from Becker, who just hit everything massive, and sort of volleyed to Sampras, and then to Rafter. And in that transition, I got so sick and tired of guys not having to earn their service game. So when I came on tour, I would blast my returns, and I never broke anybody. It was so frustrating. So I actually ended up going in, and I just said, well, Rafter breaks a lot. I'm just going to try that. So that's when I started shipping all my returns, and I ended up being fourth best breaker at one stage. It was behind Hewitt, Agassi, and Guillermo Coria, and all I did was just play more defensive. So I brought on Kildare to just kind of try and cheat. I tried to cheat more or less to see what Pat Rafter was doing, because he was best friends with Pat Rafter and they would train together all the time. And what Kildare left on me is, again, he tried to take pressure off me. You know what I mean? He tried to put it down the road, but again, I'm a young, stubborn kid, and I wasn't hearing it. I wasn't having any part of it. As far as how he impacted my game, I got really fit, and I spent so much time just doing that, you know, just ball away. He'd be back in the corner, and I'd be balling him, he'd just be passing me, he'd just be crushing my legs down nonstop up at net, and that's all I can remember doing. And Paul, I have a funny story about Paul. Is again, our personalities were a little bit opposite. I couldn't sleep at night. You know, I would say 50% of the time I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about my game. And Paul was, you know, he was a little bit more loosey-goosey. And so I believed at that time, if I served well, I win. You know, as simplistic as it was, I felt like if I served well, I won. If I served bad, I lost. It was that simple to me. So me hitting a lot of serves each day was really important to me. And Paul didn't like it. He thought I was obsessive and all this sort of stuff. And he's probably right. You know, I'm probably wrong. But again, at that stage, I'm young and dumb. So I was going to do it my way. And I remember sneaking out to practice in the mornings before he'd wake up. So I would go and I'd get the bag of balls, you know, before anybody was at the courts. You know, we're talking 6 a.m. And I'd go hit my 2 hours of serves. I'd come back, shower, and meet him for breakfast. And I was doing this. And one of the sweet tournament directors, she ratted me out. You know, we get to practice the other day, and she's trying to pay me a compliment, but she doesn't know kind of what's going on the inside. And she said, man, your player is the most dedicated player. He is out here so early hitting serves all by himself, and it's freezing. And I'm just sitting there just going, oh, here we go. It's going to happen. We're going to battle right now. And he's like, what are you talking about? And so she tells him, she's like, well, he's out here at 6 a.m. hitting serves. So that was kind of, you know, our little personality clash, and we had some conversations about that one for sure. Then after that, I went with the USTA coach, Francisco Montana. Awesome guy, really, really awesome guy. Actually, me and Robbie Ginevri were playing with, you know, having Francisco as a coach, and you know, we got along great. We would talk a lot about tactics. You know, we talked a lot about tactics and just you know, how to implement the game a little bit, and Francisco was fun. You know, Francisco was a lot of fun to sit down. The only non-tennis story I have about Francisco is Robbie likes to gamble. I don't really care. And one of our first trips was to Australia, and my buddy read a crafts book, and we went all out together in Francisco. Hates gambling. We put money in, and we're doing crafts, and the system's working out unbelievable, and we're doing really, really well. We have a lot of money out on the table, and Francisco is, what are those black chips worth? I mean, they're in the hundreds, and we've got like $800 out on the table, and we didn't put in that much. And Francisco is like just going crazy trying to get us away from the table. But I remember that part of my career was probably the most off-court fun, not because we were doing anything sinister or anything like that. I just think Francisco was just he's a good soul. After Francisco, I took my buddy and my father out on the road, and again, I think I got to an age where I accepted that I was an idiot, and my father is one of the best coaches out there, and I was fortunate to have him, and fortunate for him to want to be on the road with me. And again, that's when I had the best. Oh, Brad Stein. I went with Brad Stein, so he's coaching Kevin Anderson now. Just got to the finals. Brad Stein was big on fitness, huge. That's what we did, diet and fitness. That's what I remember the most. He said a lot of good stuff. The thing that impressed upon me the most was I had a habit of when somebody would pass me and it was too far away, I wouldn't go for it. And so he just says, don't care, just reach your racket. He said two things are going to happen. One thing is that guy is going to feel like the court's smaller than it really is, and two, you're going to get faster, you're going to get more explosive. So you may never get that ball that goes by, but you may get a ball that's, that you wouldn't have gotten. There's only, a couple inches further away. So he was very much fitness oriented. And then, so then I went with my father, and I had a great run with my dad. My dad is I would say my dad is a tactician and an off-court coach, if that makes sense. He loves taking care of all the details. Practice has got to be booked like 10 days out in advance. He kind of gets nervous and anxious about court time and practice time. So behind the scenes at these pro tournaments, it's tough to get court time. You've got all these pros around, they want to hit all day long, and so he's really good at just making sure that the hits are with really good people, good quality, and then I'm getting what I want. And he'll stay out there all day with me. So now, talk going on past my professional career, going on to the coaches that I like. If I have a coach working with our academy who teaches private lessons, those kids, I don't know if this is the same for other academies, but those kids tend to take from like all of us, so I need a coach that's not going to teach something different than what we're teaching. And I make that a point, And again, I'm not saying that our way is right, but we don't want to confuse the kid. So you can use different, but the end goal has to kind of be the same. So I'm a little bit pickier with a coach who's going to teach private lessons, because, man, that would be the worst thing, is the kid coming back and saying, well, Devon told me this, and it's totally opposite. And then it looks bad too. Not only is it counterproductive, it just looks bad. So that's a big deal for me.
How do you manage that with the staff?
We just tell them up front. Just say, look, we obviously know, look, you think all of us will agree on what's right and wrong? No chance. There's no chance. We're all going to have, and even if we did, I guarantee you we'd have a different set of priorities. This is more important than this. Like if I'm working with somebody's forehand, somebody may, the kid's leg may be straight, and somebody may think this is the most important thing, and I may be seeing we're not going to agree on the priority. We may agree on all the problems, but we're not going to agree on the priority, and that's a big thing. So I just tell them up front, just say, look, we know you have your ideas, but if you're going to teach private lessons, you cannot be imparting something. If you have a question, please come ask us. We teach side by side, and I oversee a lot of those lessons too. And again, it's not through ego; it's just through simplicity and a constant message from the kid to the kid, right?
You together a lot to talk about things?
We're on the courts all day. Yeah. We see each other all day long. Like all come today. I was teaching this morning, and I called one of the coaches over because I thought this kid's bad. Dad's telling me this kid's backhand's terrible, and I'm watching this kid hit backhands. And I'm looking at the thing. I videoed the thing. I'm like, the backhand. I'm like slow-moing it, and I'm putting it next to Djokovic. I'm like, geez, I don't know if I can tell that much of what's going on here. And so I asked the other coach to come over. I'm like, hey, tell me if you see what's wrong with his back. Because I see something, just to try. And he's like, looks pretty good. So we're always on courts kind of collaborating with all that sort of stuff. As far as like the private lessons go. As far as an academy coach, they have to be fun. They have to be fun. I tell you what, nothing will kill a group more than just the kids not wanting to go. The parents. I feel the parents like, at least for my kids, the parents like to think they have control, but they don't. it's the kids that have control. And so if the kids aren't having fun, they're not going to want to come back. So the coach has got to be fun. And again, the requirement for an academy coach is a lot less because you don't get time to really get too technically involved. It's more just surface area stuff. So they have to be fun. Obviously, they have to have the court under control. They can't just let the kids go crazy. But and that's the balance. So I would say for an academy coach, it's more personality based, and for a private teaching coach, it's got to be just on the same page. And if you have a question, come ask. We're a court away.
Sorry, I
you're good.
how do you manage? Kids are having fun and they're enjoying and they're coming back. But on the parent side, the parent is coming to you. No, I want my kid to do this. They need to be doing. They need
all
to be.
The time.
It
happens all the time. And that's just. I try to make it an open communication with the parents as much as possible because we're not trying to hide. I mean, we're doing the stuff we believe in. I believe that the kids will play less tennis if they're having less fun. And more tennis, look, improvement is really intensity, right? How hard are you trying? It's time. How much time do you spend? And it's efficiency. Are you working on things that matter or are you just wasting time? So if, so I feel like if I tell the parents that it's fun, and I believe this, if it's fun, the kids are going to spend way more time playing. You know what I mean? I actually was doing an experiment for a little bit, and I think the kids improved faster when I was doing this stupid little game we call Ring Ring. And it's an okay game, but the kids loved it. And they were engaged, they were competing, they were trying to do it the right way and all this sort of stuff, rather than doing the monotonous drill. Obviously, the monotonous drills, they're valuable. There's a time and a place for them. But I feel that if you take away the fun, the kids will want to spend less time there, and that's my biggest. And they'll do less intense things. I mean, we have this guy who's doing our mental training, fitness training, all that sort of stuff. And there's all sorts of studies out there where improvement happens so much faster when the person's engaged, and they're engaged when it's fun. And so I think that having fun out there, obviously, can it go too far? Sure, of course it can go too far, and that's where you as a coach, I as a coach, have to find that boundary. And the kids love to cross over that line and see where that line is and all that sort of stuff, and then we run. If they can't have fun doing a productive drill, then we'll put the rackets down and we'll run. We'll see. That's the choice to me. And again, that may be too hard for some, that may be too soft for some, but that's just what it is. Like, I'm all for having fun as long as it's productive. If I feel it's gone past the point and it's no longer productive, we just make sure we get back in line real quick.
Taylor, what do you feel about the one-hand backhand versus the two?
I love it. So obviously there's pluses and minuses to everything, right? So I would say one-handed backhand. So Djokovic. So all the good forehands, RPMs, they go about 4,000, right? I think Sock's over 4,000, Nadal's around 4,000, Federer's at like 30. Anyway, they're around 4,000 RPMs. Djokovic has one of the spinnier backhands out there, and spinnier two-handed backhands out there, and that's around 1,800 RPMs. So it's a flatter stroke. A flatter stroke generally means safer, more solid, right? Less offensive, right? The one-handed backhands out there, like Gasquet, Federer, Wawrinka, Almagro, Team, their RPMs get up close to 4,000. It's as fast as a forehand. So the pluses and minuses to that. Where do most one-handed returners return from? Deep. You look at Wawrinka, he stands really deep. Fed's actually the only one that stands up. Team stands really deep. Wawrinka stands really deep. Gasquet stands really deep.
Just the high ball and
yeah, and you need time for this. You need time for all this. Federer's the only one that stands up here, and he doesn't hit a ground stroke returning. He goes boom and blocks it old school style. Eliot had a great backhand return. Very, very simple. You know what I mean? It's not the modern backhand you see with these guys whipping out of it, right? So I would say if you're looking for a more offensive shot once the rally starts, I mean, I played both Gasquet and Djokovic. Much more scared of Gasquet's backhand than Djokovic's backhand. I mean, his backhand, he can hit a winner on you cold no matter what. You know what I mean? Anywhere he wants. Same as Wawrinka. Man, that thing goes so big, so fast. It's a problem. Whereas Djokovic, you hit to his backhand, you don't get anywhere. You don't make any progress. It's just a solid shot, and he's accurate, and it's still big. Don't get me wrong, it's still big, but it's not at the same level as the one-handers out there. Returns, I don't really think you can compare. I think a two-handed backhand return is the best return out there. It's better than typically forehand returns or one-handed backhand returns. So it's just what's your preference? You know, in my opinion, what's your preference? The argument is versatility on the slice. I nobody hit more slices than me on tour, right? I hit 99% slice backhands, and I feel that slice backhands are vulnerable. You start playing guys in the top 20 in the world that have big forehands, and it gets a little dicey, you know, hitting too many slice backhands. So I would just say this, to make an argument on a backhand based on being able to hit a slice, Djokovic's slice is fine, Andy Murray's slice is fine, Alexander Zverev's slice is fine. It's good enough. Is it as good as Federer's? No, but Federer doesn't win matches because of the slice. He wins matches because he's got, you know, one of the best forehands of all time and a great serve, you know, and various other things, right? So I would say if I'm leaning towards one or the other, I actually don't even know. I can't even tell you. I would just say making sure that the player is aware of what they're getting into both ways. Like I have a 5-year-old son, and he loves tennis. Freaks out. Anyway, he loves watching tennis on TV, and he loves Federer. So what does he do? He just drops the ball for himself. He's hitting one-handed back as he's 5 years old, right? And so what am I going to say? You know, if he likes it, then it's good. You know, I hate to say no. You got to do a two-handed backhand, because if he, again, it's that fun factor. If he has passion for this, it's gonna be good. It's all about, I don't know, directing that passion, right? Like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you read, you know, the Outliers book. It's all about just channeling that passion for whatever they like to do.
Yeah. How many serves do you have in your kids? Because I'll tell kids that these, like a pro 20 years ago, to stop their ball that has to serve every day. I've been teaching here for 14 years in general. I've had very few kids. Everybody said, you said you went out and served 2 hours. That's not $500 for $1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you telling the kids? I know today's a heavy ground stroke game. Service. And the second thing is when I watch Eliot play, he's probably got the best one-hand backhand I've ever seen in my life.
And he'd agree with me.
I got a friend of mine. Well, I mean, he did. I appreciate that in those days.
Right.
You know, and a friend of mine, Mel, so I've played for his dad.
Yeah.
So I kept up with this and went to pro versus my Elliot played. So yeah, he did.
Yeah, no, and he liked to tell everybody about it too. Oh, that's funny. As far as the serving is really tough. Kids hate it. The kids hate it. It's boring. Whatever. You know, we do home games. You know, I put this court versus that court, or this team versus this team on the court. The best thing that I have found to do it, and again, I could be biased, but I feel like the serve is the most important part of the match. I mean, in junior tennis, how many matches are decided because the kids double fault, or they hit just a dinky little second serve in there? Like it's substantial, you know. And in pro tennis, is it a coincidence that Federer's got? I mean, I don't even think there's any argument to it. I think the serve is probably throughout the generations the most important shot. And that's the one constant in tennis. So obviously we need volume. Getting a kid to serve for 15 minutes is painstaking and stuff. Unless you're doing the private lesson, then you're working on something and it can be, but the volume's not there because you're talking so much. I do serving competitions for cones. That kind of keeps them engaged for a little bit, but what I also do is I sprinkle it out, because I feel that we should be serving at a minimum of 30 minutes a day. A minimum of 30 minutes a day. I feel like it should probably be closer to an hour. I mean, if it's the most important stroke in the game, let's spend some time doing it, you know? So I've had better success when I sprinkle it out. If the kids come in, let's just warm up with some serves. You know, just nice and easy, roll it over. We get a quick 15 minutes in. Let's pick up, we'll start doing some drills. We'll play a game, or we won't play a game. We'll do some hard work, and I'll say, okay, let's hit 15 more minutes of serves, and after that, we'll play a game. You know, so I try and space it out a little bit, but it's just tough, because it's tennis kids tend to just like to be active and moving and hitting all the time, and the serve is not that. You know, it's
like in our day, or my day, I would serve a ball for an hour.
Yeah.
And so I'd say, I'm going to serve for community business. They've been the best returns in their lives. I wanted to do those things. I can't even get the kids today. You know, he's productive and couples can still serve ball. And still, if someone's closing your serve back, you got a great serve, and you're just, you know,
yeah. No, it absolutely is.
Every time I talk, I hear people talk about confidence, and so many people say, well, I have to win to get confidence.
Yes, love it.
And others say, I'm going to do another practice court to build confidence.
Yes.
Where would you say you got it? Why did it falter? And how did it come back?
Okay. So, everybody gets confidence from winning. That's the easy thing. But how do we, what is the chicken and the egg, right? What happens first? I try to reframe that because if you gain confidence from winning, then you're just being hopeful. You know, you're praying that you start winning. You can't control that. You know, at the end of the day, you can affect the things that affect you. You can't just say, I'm going to win today, and that's it. So if you're relying on winning to give you confidence, then you're just hoping to get lucky. Same concept as playing well. If you're relying on playing well for confidence, you're hoping for that 10%. You're hoping for that maybe 20%. So when I was fragile, I would always gain confidence from my results, who I beat, what the score was, how well I played, and so on and so forth. And I would just do this, just do that. When I was the most stable, I got confidence in my method, my tactics. I was confident in my game style. Like, what was I trying to do out there? I was confident that, you know, if I make the guy play, I'm going to have great chances to win. So I was confident that I was confident in my fighting. You know, I didn't have to play well to win. And I felt like that was a real confidence. So that was a confidence that I could go into every match with. So I would just say, I'm dealing with a player who's doing this, and you know, just saying so unconfident, and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, well, it's your fault. It's your fault. You're focusing on how well you're playing. You're focusing on the bad stretch that you're in. You should be confident in that you're doing the right things, and sooner or later that will turn around, and you'll start to win some matches. But be confident in the brand of tennis that you're playing. I mean, shoot. Again, you look at people even having a bad run, having a bad time. I mean, just the amount of confidence that someone like Federer has is he believes so strongly in what he does works. You know, that's some serious confidence. But if you're not Federer, you have to manufacture that beforehand. You have to say, look, I believe in this, whether this is working today or not. You know, this is the right thing to do, and if I keep doing it, it's gonna pay off in the long run. So I would just say, you gotta tweak where you get your confidence from. I think that's everything. Yes. We have international players, but international players are full-time boarding kids. They require the most facilities, if that makes sense. They require housing. They require a chaperone. They require a lot of school. All that sort of stuff. So that's something that we're building currently is a place to house them, all that sort of stuff. So we don't turn any kids away that want to come, but the accommodations they stay at, I mean, some kids stay with us, at our place, and but they're just that's just a tough group, And then on top of that, coaching, you have to dedicate a traveling coach to them. So I think that if you're talking about the financial aspect of that, super good. It's a super good way financially to make your business viable, but it also is the most expensive way to make your business. That's why I'm saying, the after-school program, if you can attract the local kids, it's the easy way to go for sure. Least risk.
So you gave us a lot of good information about serving, and obviously that was your trademark as a player. You still hold the fastest serve rock at Wimbledon, right? 148, I think it was.
Yeah.
But what do you attribute your great serve, your great serve supposed to?
I would say, look, my size doesn't hurt, right? I'm a bigger tennis player. Not many guys win more, so that's part of it. And the other thing, I would just defer and say, I would say that the kinetic chain of my movements, it's just like a whip. I mean, we want to make sure the end of the whip is going as fast as we can. So these things have to fire in the right sequence to really get some nice snap in there. So I would say for guys who aren't going as fast as me, then either something in their chain is not as efficient as mine, or they're not as strong as me. Maybe their chain is perfect, but they just can't generate the same force that I can. Like Sam Groff, I mean, he was hitting his serves as big as me at those slams. He's a big, strong guy, and he certainly did it very differently than I did. But however he did it, that chain was good. I mean, when I work with kids and adults to get them more speed on their serves, Let's go through it a little bit here. Can I throw a racket and stuff in it?
Show us the kick serve too.
Sure, I'll show you kick serve. Because you were asking me about bending.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm okay. I'll get one in a second. So I guess I see a few things whenever I work with a whole bunch of serves. Number one, their turn stinks. So a baseball pitcher wants to turn a lot, right? And that's not to decrease power, that's to increase that rotational thing. Obviously, we're not going to turn as much as they are, but we want that turn. And we have time. We're not a football player. Like a football player, you'll see when they're moving around throwing, they're actually open. You know what I mean? But they're under threat of getting crushed. So they have to be in this position to let go of that thing. We're not that either, right? We have time. So we get a nice turn in. And I feel like a good turn, again, there's no perfect. You have McEnroe who's facing you guys, right? He's had a ridiculous turn. My turn was pretty big. I'd face that corner back there. But anywhere I feel past the net post is good. You know, that's kind of where I see players do anyway. So that's number one, is making sure we get a nice turn. The other thing that I see a lot is this elbow is up. This is an issue because we're not a baseball pitcher and we're not a football quarterback. We don't throw forward, right? That's not what we do. Tennis players, we throw up. So we should have this alignment here to where it's going up to the ball that way. That makes sense. The only thing bringing the ball down actually is the part of the ball that we're hitting our wrist. Everything else, like if I hit that ball, I mean that thing would just launch over the fence. So elbow below the shoulder is another one that Dad and I are big on. This, okay, so this hand can be anywhere on this side of the elbow. As soon as it gets on that side of the elbow, we're no longer loose, we're no longer whippy, we end up being muscly. Okay? So boom, hand has got to be here. Roddick's hand was like way down here. Seemed to work just fine for him. He had a pretty quick serve. I was, up here somewhere. I would say if their trophy pose gets here, where the hand is on this side of the elbow, it ends up being muscled, and I find that they lose a lot of pace on that one. Raonic, there was another kid, Michael McClune, who saw, and what seems to work for the kids, I tell them to salute. That makes sense. You salute with the racket, and that seems to work. Keeping the hand down, the palm down, I feel is a really big thing as long as you can, because we want this motion from here to here to be as whippy and loose and as quick as we can, right? Elbow's got to be back. We don't want it too far, but it's got to be back. Sometimes I see the elbow in here. In fact, I was working with a girl, and great athlete, and her elbow's like here, and it ends up just you lose all of that whippiness there by bringing the elbow forward. Like when I hit my serve and I slow-mo it, my hand doesn't go back, right? My elbow comes forward, and that opens up my hand, and then I throw. Does that make sense? Like you wouldn't want to throw by going back there. It's muscled and it's not loose. Again, we want to be a whip where you get more racket head speed out of the whip than anything else. What else we got?
For the kick serve.
All right, well, I'm getting to the kick serve. Let me see if there's anything else here that's a big deal for me. Feet, I'm okay. I'm a little lenient on the feet. As long as you're turning, I feel that's okay. I mean, Becker had a pretty good serve, and he had some weird feet. So did Ivanisevic. I'm not as big on the feet. I'm big on which leg do you jump off of based. I'm actually kind of big on this. Which leg do you jump off of based on what stance you use? Because if you're doing that pinpoint stance, you should be jumping mostly off of your left leg. So if you like jumping off your left leg, then you should probably choose to do that pinpoint stance. If you like jumping off of your right leg or more of a balanced thing, then you should probably do this one because you need to hold your weight back a little bit longer. You don't want to be leaning forward. You don't have too much range there. I think for me, those are the fundamentals as far as generating power. Now the other thing is too, is my technique may or may not be good or adequate or whatever, and I do this all the time for my kids, is technique, in my opinion, is good for two things. Well, three things. It's injury prevention, it is for generating as much racket head speed as possible, or minimizing racket head speed as much racket, because I wouldn't want to hit a volley like that, right? That's just too much racket head speed. You want something nice and simple. So in my opinion, that's pretty much all it's good for, because I can have good technique and hit the same technique over a fence, right? So there's more to it than just technique. That's just for racket head speed purposes. Kick serve was asked earlier. Okay, the things that I have that I come across all the time with a kick serve is this. Basically, you have to get the kids used to tossing on the wrong side of their body, and it's not fun, and they don't like it. Now, the purpose of this toss is not to arch more. In fact, you defeat the purpose of a kick serve if you arch more. Okay? The purpose is we want it back there so we can use our wrist in that type of fashion, where we brush it up. So I'm making contact back there, and I'm brushing it up through. If you arch more, all you're doing is putting that ball right on top of you again, and that, again, that's defeated the purpose of the kick serve. And some of the other things, when the kids toss over here, they try to come through it and they chase it and it looks like that. We're tossing it over there because we want to come this way. Like if I was going to throw my racket, I'd be throwing it through the side of the building there. And my strike zone for that motion is actually behind me there. So toss is big, getting it over there. Wrong side of my body and into the court, not behind the court. You can hit good kick serves from back here. They just go a little slow. They go a little fluffy because you got to flick at it a little bit more. You can't get your shoulder through it. And again, just watch Federer where he lands on his kick serve. They're landing into the court. If you toss it backward, they jump backward every time. The last part is part of the ball you hit. Again, this is why I was able to hit the serve over the fence with the same technique. I changed the part of the ball I hit. So if you want to hit a kick serve, we need the ball to spin in that fashion, right? It's kind of a corkscrew through the air. I'm not going to get that by coming across the back of the ball. That's just going to make the thing slice. Or if I'm underneath the ball, anything I do coming across, it's just going to end up cutting away. Does that make sense? So I actually need to be, I need to be on the top half of the ball. I need to be covering the ball and brushing across that way so I get these things to actually kick for me. Does that make sense? I'm not arching more. I want the ball back there so I can pull across nice and aggressive. And it would, if you slowed it down, it wouldn't look like this, but it feels like this to me. Like I'm trying so much to cover that ball and come across because I have to put that spin on it to get that way. So I would say toss is number one. Leave it there. Let them get comfortable with it. And then number two, they have to get used to hitting that top half of the ball. If they're hitting the side of the ball or the bottom of the ball, it's not going to behave in the right way.
What's your grip pressure on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being spaghetti?
2, 3. I mean, if you want racket head speed, right? If I clamp this thing down, that's probably going to affect my wrist. I mean, that's what I would guess. I'm not an expert in that, but I just know that when I am loose with my hand, then that's what I mean. If I want racket head speed, I want to be loose as possible. Like, you know, if I'm lining up for a serve, shoot, you could pull that out of my hand, go fairly comfortably. And the body part that I focus on for me when I'm serving is my wrist. So here's another interesting thing. When you see Federer hit forehands, it doesn't look like he's muscling. It doesn't look like he's trying. When I do demonstrations with my serve, people say, oh man, you're serving so fast, so easy. And I don't have to warm up. Right? Like I can come out here and hit these serves pretty big without warming up too much. And it's because I feel like I'm not using my big muscles. I'm using my wrist as hard and as aggressive. Right? And so that doesn't take, like I'm trying, but I'm just trying where you can't see it, if that makes sense. And same thing on the second serve. I'm trying hard, but you guys can't see it because it's going too fast.
It doesn't hurt your shoulder?
I can do this all day. Hey,
It's insane.
I can do this all day. It's all I do for the kids. All right, just get up here. And it's just because, again, I'm just using my wrist. You know, I'm not using, I feel like I'm not using much else. That is just initiating. All this other stuff for me is just initiating my wrist. It's just getting me going, and then boom, that's where it happens.
Okay, I piggyback on that?
Yes.
Well, I hated to say all that, by the way. No, because it goes back to the kinematic chain, right? The reason his shoulder's not breaking down is he has the ability to coil, right? So he's using his hips to his thorax, to his arm, to the racket. And when we were talking there earlier, right, we need that wrist to be a mobile segment. A lot of you that grip down too much and you have too much pressure, you make that a stable segment. So now the elbow has to be mobile. So now all of a sudden this shuts down. So that's why we start to get a lot of those problems. And I love that he said, especially in the kick serve, you were talking about that a little bit ago, it's not that extension. So when we do that, now we start to break down those other areas, and efficiency happens, and that's where we double fault, we start to have a problem.
So.
No, I've won 3-7. Cool. There's the science behind it. I just know what it feels like.
I tore my shoulder years
Yeah,
ago. So.
and it's funny, you know, if kids come to me or adults come to me and they say my shoulder's hurting on a forehand or a backhand or a serve, I mean, they're doing it wrong. You know, they're doing it wrong. They're not using the joints in the right way, right? The wrists in the right
You
way.
didn't even loosen up at all before you just served.
I got off the plane an hour ago.
That's great technique.
Okay.
No, my arm was full. That was amazing.
Good? All right. Any other questions while you got me?
I got one for
Yeah.
you. Tell me 2 or 3 of the players that you just hated to play.
Easy. Andy Murray was number one. He just anybody who could get a return down low and lob was really hard for me. So the 3 easy. Andy Murray ranked number 1, and a tie for Hewitt and Albanian. I actually didn't mind playing Agassi because he returned a little bit like Djokovic, right? He hit the returns pretty aggressive. So when I was serving balls, every volley would be here because his returns are just used to hitting the baseline. So I was actually okay. But with Murray and all those other guys, they were really good at just hitting the returns right here. And that doesn't feel so good when you're going up against good passers. So,
I think the game will shift back again where we'll see certain volleys.
the only way it does is if you make I think the only way it does is if you make the game less appealing on TV. Because when I played, when people come up to me and say, "Oh, I remember that match you played. That was a fun match to watch, great match to watch." They're the worst matches I played. You know, when I played my good matches, you don't watch tennis. You know, you watch me hit aces, unreturnables, and you watch me chip and charge and the points last 2 seconds. You know what I mean? And the guy can't handle my approaches, so he's missing a lot of balls. It's not as fun to watch, in my opinion, as what we see now. I mean, what we see now is these guys and these girls are just whipping the ball all over the place, and you get 6, 8 ball rallies. Sometimes you get 3 ball rallies. I think it's way more fun to watch now. So I don't know. I think it'd be counterproductive to the business side of the ATP and the WTA to let that happen.
Taylor, I have a question. If you were playing Rafa and he stands 20 feet back, what would you do serving the ball to him, or would you do?
Okay. Well, again, whether it works or not, this is what I would try to do. So, obviously, again, like everything, it's a give and take. If you're standing deep, what are you taking away? You're taking away my pace, right? So my pace means nothing. What you're getting me is width. I wouldn't want to serve you too much tee, because then I'm putting you where you want to be. You're in a decent defensive position. I'd probably serve you 80% out wide, or win the ball 80% out wide, and I would make him make the choice. So he's either going to let me hit a volley, and we'll see how that goes for him, coming from over there. He's got a lot of court to cover, or he's going to have to go for a winner. If he's good enough to just hit winners on me from back there, then that's too good. But I would say the further back somebody goes, the more this makes sense, right? And that's why Djokovic's returns are so good, right? Where is everybody after they hit a serve? Boom. They're here, right? They're roughly here. So something deep is devastating. That's not fun at all. But why are angles so powerful in men's tennis today? Because generally speaking, guys are defending from way back here. So angles become extremely powerful. And it doesn't even matter if you know it's coming. The angle, it doesn't even matter, because it becomes a chess game at a certain stage. If you get some guy over there, how good of a shot do they have to hit to stay in the point? I mean, it's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? So that's actually one of the patterns that we work on with our kids all the time. It's look for an angle and take the next ball as early as you can. And so yeah. So that's the general rule. The more you back up, the more this works.
Awesome.
Yes. Good.
Thanks.